Because I was born in 1993, most people just assume that my first gaming console was maybe the PlayStation in 1995 or the Nintendo 64 in 1996. However, my earliest gaming memories are with the Sega Genesis and the classic 8-bit NES. We had a small selection of games back then, and I have very vague memories of maybe playing Super Mario Bros. Or Sonic the Hedgehog 2. But if there's one game that I have the most memories of playing back when I was a kid, it's Shadowgate on the NES. Shadowgate's actually a point-and-click adventure game that was released for the NES in 1989. The game was released on several PC systems like the Macintosh and the Atari ST, and I believe there was a DOS version. But I never tried any of them, just the good old NES version. I think the reason I grew so attached to Shadowgate when I was younger is because it was the first game where I felt like I was the main character. It's kinda hard to play Sonic the Hedgehog and just pretend you're being Sonic. When I played Shadowgate, however, I felt like I was actually the one exploring the castle, solving puzzles, spearing a troll, lighting torches, meeting an untimely death more times than I can remember. The game's a masterpiece to me, and there's few games today that make me feel like I'm immersed in an adventure like Shadowgate did back then. Of course, back then I could never beat Shadowgate because it's one of the most hardest punishing games in the NES library. When you play Shadowgate, you are going to die, and you are going to die a lot. Unfortunately, at one point when I was a kid, our NES broke, and all of our games were either given away or thrown away, including Shadowgate. But several years later, when I was in middle school, I stopped in a Game Crazy store. Do you remember those? They were lumped in with Hollywood Video. It was kind of weird. Anyway, I stopped into Game Crazy and I bought a new NES, and I believe it cost me about $50 at the time. And I stopped to look at the games. They had a list of all the games there, and Shadowgate was on that list for $3.99. So I bought that game as fast as I could possibly buy it, and I ran home and played it and played it and played it, and I finally beat the game. And it was really, really rewarding for me to know that after all the years that I had played it, that I finally conquered Shadowgate. If you should decide to pick up and play this game, be prepared for an extremely difficult point-and-click quest that's going to require you to solve obscure puzzles and die a countless amount of times. The premise of the game is really simple. There's a wizard named Lackmere, and he drops you in front of the castle Shadowgate, telling you to go defeat the Warlock Lord, who's the evil villain in the game. And the Warlock Lord wants to summon the Behemoth and destroy an entire land. But of course, Lackmere the wizard doesn't bother to offer you any help before you go in the castle. He does show up at a later point, but still, you'd think the guy could give you a little bit more help. Anyway, on the first screen of the game, you're greeted with a door in the upper left corner, item list on the right, and several commands for you to choose from at the bottom. You got your move command, which allows you to explore the castle, and the map in the lower corner shows you all the places that you can go, like the doors or the passageways that you can go down. Look obviously allows you to examine any items or locations that you come across. Open and close are obviously for doors or other containers, like maybe, I don't know, say a book? Hint, hint. Use should be pretty obvious. It just allows you to use your items and whatever you come across. Hit actually allows you to punch something, which might come in handy at some point. Leave, I can never really find a use for leave. I think it's supposed to be like leave items behind, but I've never used it. I've just carried around all the items. You don't have a limit on your inventory, so there's really no point. Finally, you got Speak, which is a command for spells, but really you can also use the Use command. So either or for spells, you can either speak them or you can use them. Also, you're going to need to pay attention to the two torches in the upper right corner of your screen. You're going to need to have a torch lit at all times when you're exploring the castle. You'll find several unlit ones as you explore, so be sure to pick them all up. The torches serve as kind of a time limit for you, so don't mess around too long or your torches will go out and everything will go dark, and it could lead to your death. In the lower right corner, you also have scrolling options for your item list, as well as a save button. Finally, there's a location that you can use things on yourself. This can lead to some funny or confusing moments. I remember the first time I picked up a sword in this game and I thought I had to use it on myself to equip it, or hold it, but ended up committing suicide by stabbing myself with the sword. You thrust sword into your chest. Blood begins to flow. Suicide won't help in your quest. Well, thanks a lot, game. Might as well try the hammer, right? You thrust hammer into your chest. Fantastic. Anyway, enter the door and you'll begin your adventure into the Castle Shadowgate, but first I really recommend examining the skull on top of the door. You know, just try a few options on it. You'll thank me later. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into talking about this game, I just wanted to talk to you about it a little while, so I'm going to go ahead and detail the most interesting part, and that's all the deaths in the game. There's so many ways you can die in this game that it's ridiculous. For instance, the most bizarre one I can think of right off the top of my head is a room in which you encounter a woman who's chained up to a spike, and there's a strange looking object next to her. So naturally I assumed I had to use that object to try and free the woman, but the moment you try and take that object, the woman transforms into a werewolf and rips your throat out. Additionally, there's a room with 3 mirrors. There's a left-hand mirror, a center mirror, and a right-hand mirror. When you break the center mirror, a steel door appears, so I naturally assumed that there was more doors behind the other mirrors, right? Well, I was wrong. Let's see what happens when you break the left-hand mirror. As soon as you break the mirror, shards of glass fly through the air and slice into your body. That's a bit graphic, right? I mean, come on. But then you break the right-hand mirror and it's ridiculous. You have opened a magic portal into deep space you're immediately sucked through. Now that's creativity right there. Some of the puzzles in the game are made easier by examining certain items. For example, there's a bottle of holy water in the game, but it's just called water in your inventory screen. So you won't really know to use it to kill like a hellhound or something. Hint, hint. Unless you examine it and discover that there's more to it than just a simple water bottle. Also, you should be forewarned that there are tons of dummy items in the game that do absolutely nothing or exist purely to kill you. For example, there are several bottles in the game and they're named like Bottle 1, Bottle 2, etc, etc. Most of these contain poison, but you'll need a particular bottle at least once at one point during the game. Now, I'm not saying Shadowgate's perfect by any means. When I look back on the game today, there's some pretty bad parts about it, like the pointer, when trying to control a pointer with a D-pad, it's extremely touchy, and you really got to make sure that you're pointing directly at whatever you want to interact with on the screen, so that can get a bit confusing when you're trying to take an item and it says you can't take it. Second, there's absolutely no replay value to this game. Once you beat the game once, all the correct answers to all the puzzles are going to be permanently engraved into your mind, and you'll never be able to experience the game the same way again. For example, when I was just recording the footage for this review, I captured footage of the whole game in under a half hour. That right there should be enough to say that if you're going to use a guide, don't attempt it. You're not going to have fun. It's just going to be following directions pretty much. You got to try and figure this out for yourself. Finally, I think it should be obvious from this footage, but if you like reading, you're going to like this game. If you don't like to read, you're not going to like this game. If you don't like reading text in games, this game is not for you. So yeah, guys, that's a little bit of a look at Shadowgate. I love the game. Personally, I dig it out every now and then just to play through it. Even though I know all the answers, it's still a little bit fun to me. But that just might be because I have sentimental value towards the game as well. I think it's worth at least one playthrough for everybody. It's a fantastic little point-and-click adventure game. And I know it sounds confusing, but it is a ton of fun. Every time you get a little bit closer in the game, you feel like you're making progress, and you're almost there, and it keeps you motivated to get to the end. Give the game a shot. You'll be fine as long as you remember these small tips I have for you. Don't take the book. Middle mirror only. Dogs don't like water. You can take items out of a poster and then open the poster for more items. Bottle 2 makes you float. Snakes make good stabs. Possessed forks give you wands. Look at Epor twice. Talisman goes in the left slot. Spear the troll once, then use spells the second time. Fireproof cloaks for the win. Take the shield first. Fountain water is really acid, and the Staff of Ages is what really kills the behemoth. That's my little review on Shadowgate, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. At some point I'm going to try and do another video on other games in the Shadowgate franchise. But for now I just wanted to give you a little bit of a look at a mostly forgotten NES gem. If you liked the video, please feel free to rate, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I hope you really enjoyed the video, guys. Until next time, see you later.